Hello, best greetings, and warm welcome back. Nice to connect. We're going to create a few moments for a drill meditation.
पहले सभी ड्रिल करो, माइंड ड्रिल। कर्मेंद्रियों की ड्रिल नहीं, मन की ड्रिल करो। रेडी? देखो, सबसे श्रेष्ठ से श्रेष्ठ चित्र होता है ताज, तख्त, तिलकधारी का। तो अपना चित्र सामने लाओ और सब संकल्प किनारे कर। देखो, आप सभी बाप दादा के दिल तख्त नशीन है।
Shanti, welcome back. I'd like to check if the sound is fine and if you can hear translation, you can just indicate in the chat box. This feeling of a fortress of love and safety in this atmosphere of meditation was touched on yesterday, that we have to stay in the castle, or in other words, behind the line. And nice thing that was said by Ralph Ellison: when I discover who I am, I'll be free. This salvation and self-realization. And in contrast, when we have crossed the line, and if there is that mixing with the story, then we can get identified with virtues, trying to make the role perfect, or taking identification from a spiritual identity. And then we are trying to defend, and Belinda brought this up yesterday. If someone criticizes you, if you have a identity around being punctual or accurate, and someone says you're so inaccurate, or whatever the virtue that is there. So an amazing game to be able to identify the mixing, and that just if knowing it is one thing, but we need to be practicing this safety of the true self in the castle. So looking forward to this opportunity to shine more light on this clarity, and welcoming Brother Prashant and all of you to share your thoughts and reflections.
Thank you, and hello, good afternoon. Yeah, nicely summarized, what we discussed yesterday. And these Baba's words: small little family, small little world of the father and the family. And this is a happy world, and this is a lovely world. What is required, one quality required in us, is to be radical. Our truth is so radical. In other words, we have gone in a wrong direction so far. That's why truth appears so different. And we have to be prepared for this. Right now, to realize that everything of ours is invisible. That is, it needs a different preparation and different intellect to accept this. We may not listen, and we may even speak about this, but it still needs another level of understanding that everything of ours is invisible, including ourselves. Just like here, there are images that we see, and there can be filters, but I sort of see you by the certain images on the screen. And the real you is something that different compared to the images that I see here. In the same way, in this larger computer screen, we are seeing the images, physical representation. But the real us, a real you, me, invisible. That's why the point image. And that is all of us. It is not just a soul and plus something else. No, that soul means everything. So if today, if you were to see yourself, a tiny point, star, that is that is here right now, who has come into the gathering, the tiny presence, invisible presence, that then you are in the true identity. If you feel in an emerged way, you have come from that supreme abode to this physical world. If that is the feeling you have in an emerged way, during that time you are in the true identity. If you feel this bodily you, that is you, male, female, young, old, very naturally you feel that is you, then you are in the wrong smriti, wrong identity. During those seconds, it's a wrong identity. Then you can go into the details and see what was the identity. But we have gone into the story, and identity is based on temporary story. Something from the Cinderella world. Can be anything. Most of the time based on the body, based on the role. So let us create a few minutes of attention. During these minutes, just literally a couple of minutes, but let us go for full concentration. And the first step for us is to come to that region beyond. We see this vision in the image of light, image of the sky, expanse of light. Just by us thinking of this, we see our attention, mind is directed towards this. Mind is experiencing that region beyond. The next step for us is to engage with that word. And by this word, we are actively experiencing. We are there. Whether eyes open or eyes closed, whatever one feels comfortable. And this is a region of silence. Timeless. It's a region of the family, invisible brothers. region of the true other. Exists forever. We see the reality of this. It is not just a meditation. This alokik atmosphere favors the soul. Soul becomes conscious. That's why the expression invisible presence, invisible player, he sees himself as that invisible player. It was very natural for him to be in the image of a tiny point. Normal to be immortal. Normal to belong to that sky. Finds his complete independence from the physical world. He exists independently of the physical world. Clearly sees the temporary nature of the physical world. Finds it strange that anyone would create any bondage or identities based upon that changing, constantly changing physical world. Finds it very strange. Understands he is very lucky. And he knows everyone is lucky. To start with, that is the region of happiness. They all are from that world of happiness and world of immortality. World with the God. Such is his life. Life with God and worthy to be loved by God. Invisible player, just by being free from the physical world, naturally remains egoless and viceless. That's why very worthy to be in the company of God. He knows all are like this. All are beings of happiness and love. All are harmless and also beyond harm. He just observes the truth. Nothing in the three worlds can harm anyone, even the slightest. Everyone in this region is childlike, innocent, harmless, happy, viceless, egoless. And this is their truth. This is the way everyone is. All are lovely, loving, and lucky. This region is also a region of benevolence. Just by being in this dimension, we create light. As if you make it easy for others to see this. Just being engaged, that is a necessary step in this. Once one is focused in this dimension, you create light. Because better the focus, concentration, more the light. If there is clarity, conviction, and concentration, then you create light. And it means a lot when these souls are in the world of darkness. This extraordinary truth is right in front of everyone. And so light has a power to bring a difference. As we continue on our journey in the sky, on the earth, we have the option to stay in this light. The invisible player, he remains the same player. Invisible player is the invisible traveler. He comes in the physical world. He remains the invisible observer. We remember the extremely beautiful truth. Thank you. So hello and welcome again. And we are going to come to our famous board. Feel free to type your messages and comments. Yesterday we saw our world, and we also said this is a story we are associated with, and there are various characters in the story and a drama. We have to, as we said, clarity, conviction, and concentration. These are important factors for Baba. We need to be clear. All that Baba does brings clarity. But okay, we hear it, agree with it, but conviction is necessary. Then only we can take it further. For example, we are hearing that here is a theater drama, which means everything that happened today happened in a theater. And right now, Prashant is talking. This is happening in a theater, and it is a script. And the episodes begin and end. No one dies. Episodes end. Different episode starts. Now, an important question for us is this right or wrong? Is this true or false? Yes or no? Not to keep it hanging in the middle, then we are not able to make use of this knowledge properly. Yes or no? This is like important for us. Is this the theater? We may have to reflect on this, but once you understand it's the theater, then there are no complaints in the theater, and there are no questions. Any theater doesn't promise you logic or sense or justice or security. It doesn't promise you. Just promises you free entertainment. So if this is a theater, then I need to see it in a very different way. It helps us. If not, the world outside is not seeing it as a theater at all. For them, this is everything. This is their world. For ego, this is everything. Ego doesn't like to see it as a theater. For these identities, they are based on this. Based 100%. And if you see it as a theater, these identities are going to die. So to understand there is that agenda there behind, agenda of the ego. But we can progress quickly once you get it. Ask a question like this. Is it yes or no? And then move further. Many things become easy. That allows you to go beyond. Otherwise, we know about God and we know about immortality. Right now, we're talking here. World, it's a divine reality. That world is not just a meditation. We are talking about divine world. Nothing inauspicious. We can use that word divya, divine, if there is no demon, no trace of demon. Demon, there is nothing inauspicious. even little desire and vibration of disappointment, these are not divine. Nothing inauspicious. You get an idea of what we are dealing with. We said world of happiness, but happiness comes with friends. And these two words are used in the Gita, in a scripture. And these words, one is divya, means divine, and alaukik. And these are so opposite of what ordinarily people deal with. People ordinarily are in the Laukik, that story, day in and day out, thinking about that story. And at that story level, it's the field of action of the demon. All the 10 heads of Ravan are active in that story world. These false identities, that is a sort of absolute creation of demon. So we find ourselves in this opposite world. So Divya Alaukik, Baba stays in that dimension of Divya Alaukik. And this is right in front of everyone's nose, this dimension. And so here we are talking about life with God. These are big things, not just worshipping God, once in a week. Here you understand the personality of God, the highest and the wisest and holiest, what it means. But in a close relationship of equality, at this level, everything is auspicious. So it is the relationship of equality. Various big ideas, like freedom, equality, and brotherhood. 3 principles of the French Revolution. We can't really get them in the story. Fraternity, liberty, and equality. We can't get it. We try, that is nice, but we get it here. This is the world of equality, right at the level of God. That is the way He likes it. In a world of equality, world of true freedom. You are out of all these bondages, and everyone belongs to you. There is true brotherhood. But it is also the region of immense love, the region itself of love, and region that is auspicious. Now this is right in front. To experience that, we need to be coming out of this, this bondage, getting stuck. We use this image, and it is good for us just to have it at the back of the mind. Ant hill. One side is the ant hill, and the other side is the sky. Lots happening in the ant hill, and busy. And your attention can go to that level and get stuck in thinking about ants and worrying about ants and comparing yourselves with some other ants, wants to become a big ant, and life in the ant hill. And as a result, you miss out on the sky. This is what happens to human beings. When you come in the ego world, false identities, it is not just a small loss, it is a loss on this scale. You lose the sky, complete oblivious of that option, get caught in the anthill. What you are experimenting is discovering back that sky. You may have to let go of this ego, false identities for this, and discover this dimension of world with the God, world of immortality, world beyond harm, world of the true family. As was said, bliss and love, world of benevolence. This world is alaukic. It is not gross. Nice translation is alaukic, unearthly. It is subtle. It is divine. Every second you are experiencing it. It is the biggest prize this moment. Who is experiencing it? The soul that is conscious, experiencing it. We do not say Prashant is experiencing it. No, Prashant is part of the story. And Prashant part will finish. That is, we are understanding it. And understand that invisible soul is the invisible actor, completely independent of the part and mask. Yeah, excellent. So let us hear some thoughts from you. Quick revision of some of the things we experienced.
Question that came of at the end of yesterday. Do we need to identify the false identities like individually, or is it enough to just concentrate on the true identity and the false will automatically end?
Yes, that is enough. Focusing, experiencing true identity, you remain busy creating light, and the darkness will become less. But if you are able to observe any of the identity, some situation, some reaction comes, if you are able to observe, that is also like shining light. You are seeing what is happening. And in the atmosphere of light, anything that is false, it dissolves. But focus is not analyzing and going on about this, talking about. That is not enough. Some psychotherapies and all. It goes at that level. Just analyzing at a drama level. That is because there is nothing to replace. Our emphasis is create time in what is true, and what is false will automatically follow.
I think that's helpful because tendency can be to analyze in the dark without bringing some the range of possibilities of experience and insight. But as you say, sometimes, and it's said, you need to see a stain to remove it. So it's also maybe both, but seeing it from strength. So there aren't any other questions, just a few comments, some reflections, but
yes,
nothing else at this point.
Just want to mention that is false identities we mentioned about, and it was nicely summarized at the beginning. We have identities, gross ones to start with, based on the body role, the dominant. Like in one gathering, in a small gathering here many years ago, we were talking about the invisible traveler passing through, and I was talking, and one person raised a hand, so I said yes. He said, but I'm professor, and how is it possible for me not to be professor? So I said yes, that was the time you are not a professor, but you were there. And maybe in the future you are not a professor anymore. You may be the prime minister. So you still exist, but professor, that is not there anymore. So he appeared to understand, and I sort of continue. After another 5 minutes, he raised his hand again, and he said, everyone knows I'm professor. How is it possible for me not to be professor? So I said, okay, this is more difficult for me to deal with. It just gives an idea how entrenched our identities are. We can't even question it. It is not just him. That same thing will be in us also. We feel drowning in that ego-based life, in the anthill. We are stuck in this. Such is the culture around us. And what is happening? These are gross ones we are talking about, but then there are more subtle ones, identity based on religion, and they will create just as big havoc, because all these identities are insecure. So the identity based on religion, these are, and in time they can become bigger, and we bring them from the past lives. And identities based upon can be some ideas. You are in favor of some system, some the communist system or Darwinism, or you can be so fanatic about this because you have invested in it, and it hurts you if someone doesn't agree with that system, those ideas, as if it is personal attack on them. You can get very angry. And even more subtle identities, as was said, based creating image about yourself. You may see yourself as spiritual. And in this gathering, Maya will adapt. Do you know Darwin's theory of evolution? Do you know what is his principle? Survival, who survives? What is the principle of Darwin? You can type.
Well, survival of the fittest, another survival of the adaptable.
Yeah, the principle of Darwin is the one who adapts, he survives. Not necessarily the fittest. So like environment changes, now the global warming, who will survive? The animals that can adapt to global warming, they are the ones who will survive. There may be many strong people, but those who can adapt. Ego is master in this trick. He knows how to adapt. So you become into the spiritual gathering, and Maya will give you another identity, that you are very spiritual, you are very kind, you are very humble. Maya will give you. It is not may. I'm talking from personal experience. Maya will give you all these different identities. Any virtue you have, any actions you have done, Maya will give you. And And if you do not observe it, it will get bigger. And as it gets bigger, it will create accidents, which means these identities are insecure. And you think you are progressing spiritually because you are saying, I'm so humble. You talk the right way, behave the right way, walk around with semi-closed eyes, and everything is going really well. And ego is getting bigger. Others are also saying, you are so humble, and so you like this. And now suddenly situation comes that makes you very insecure. Someone is defined as more humble. He is on the stage to talk about humility. And this ego will not like this at all. I am the one who is authority on this humility. I am the humble one. I am the more spiritual one. Whatever it is, it may be based upon the actions you're doing. Maya will go in the area that it can survive, and you are not shining light there because it is all holy. And any accidents means now you are taking offense. You feel hurt and you feel sorry for yourselves. The same thing that other ego feels, it will come from another identity. And these false identities, the reason worth paying attention to this is not academic. In Cambridge, we had a conference some 15 years ago on identities. University, organized conference. And they are taking it very academic, as if it is, oh yes, these identities, as if it is nice to know about this. We don't see this as academic. What we are seeing, this creates havoc. 99% of the sorrow that exists in the world, it is unnecessary, and it is there because of the identities. All 100% of sorrow is unnecessary, but the large part of this is because of identities. These identities are the ones that is the cause of anger in the world. Anyone gets angry, it is very likely coming from the identities. I would like to say near 100% of anger coming from identities. If the identity feels really insecure, the one form of it is anger. If you can blame someone. All these false identities have three manifestations. It is called sad, bad. Make a guess, what is the third one? Sad, bad?
Mad.
Yes. This is the only three, but there is a variety within each of these, different kinds of sadness and madness. So this is what we see in the world. These are the things we don't like in this world, but its origin is false identification, and the wars take place because of these false identifications. And as I said, not necessary, unnecessarily. You are quite safe, and you just identify with something. As an example, say you are associated with a car. You may be associated with just for one day that car, and you identify with that car, let us say. And someone says he doesn't like that car, it is a wrong shaped car. You take the offense, you get angry, and you lose a friend. That car was with you just for one day, and it is gone. but the animosity can be for lifetime. Such is our life actually. There is no real reason to let go of our life of immense love for everyone, and our life of happiness, our life of security, and life of divinity. There is no real reason. The only reason we lose it is because of the false identity. It takes us into degradation. It is not just we lose the divine, but we go into degradation 100% of the time because of these identities. And this area is not noticed, not discussed, not taught in the world. As we are saying, it is ruling their lives and creates society. It is not discussed. For us, we need to see it with seriousness. And we used this image yesterday where there are many false identities. And there is one true identity. And our aim is to nourish this. Create time to nourish the true identity. And that is the way the shift will happen. Karmatit stage is where you are free from all remnants of what is false. When you remove all that is karmatit stage. Purification of the soul is this. Golden age personalities, they will be soul conscious. That is what this means. Everything is there, drama is going on. There will be body, people, position, possessions, they all are there. But the invisible traveler is not going to define himself based on the anthill. Things of the anthill are nice, but he knows something more. He knows his divya and alaukic side. That is represented by this image. Yeah, any thoughts? To add anything?
A couple of questions have come up, which are maybe around understanding this topic. Start with the question from, I think, Canada. I feel the most entrenched identities are the relationship ones, like, being a daughter or a son or a sister, etc. And society's expectations that come with the roles that we are temporarily in. How do you recommend we balance these expectations with Brahmin life? That's one question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So what, let us bring another image. Yeah, these are practical questions. This is what our practical life is. So here is our world drama going on. And also when we come in the spiritual, and become a spiritual student, our emphasis is understanding the true picture. We are understanding the journey of the invisible traveler, and the invisible traveler is associated with the part here. This is a game of a second, not a long process. In 1 second, you understand, okay, here is the part, body and the part played, and associated with different, it is a drama going on. Someone is acting as a as a mother and someone is acting as a. But you also know behind those who are acting, they are also invisible actors, and they are also immensely lovely, and they are also from that same family. This is that region of, equality, fraternity, and liberty. So here we are, they are the same ones acting as mother and brother and neighbor. So silently you are aware of this. So love remains, respect remains, but the difference is it is alaukic love, and it is richer, higher. It is not based upon something superficial. In this love, there is benefit for them. They will know it's different. You are different. You are not, sending them Christmas cards and getting caught into every little thing. It is different. They know this, but they will feel there is benefit in this. Some might, complain, but something that is true is always useful for everyone. But lockic or alaukic, I don't need to compromise falsehood just to please someone. That is not required. This our inner journey is silent journey. Actional part continues. It's a drama. We don't want to be in the family or people. Drama continues, but inner life, you are conscious of another reality.
Yeah, thank you. Let us know how that answer fits in, and if you have any further questions. Question from West Country: is it a problem to have an ego, or is the problem the attachment to it?
Ego itself, here we are talking about false identity, which means you literally, the invisible actor literally feels and gets emotions based upon the drama and what is happening in the story, gets emotions. So which is abnormal, which means he has gone into that direction of sad, bad, mad. And so we don't use the word, attachment is separate. We use the word, the ego is like the another level of attachment. False identity is you have gone too far in the direction of attachment.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's answer the next question, which was, are identification and attachment the same thing? Do you want to?
Identification. That English word attachment is a very broad word. Let me give an example. Say here is a cloud, let us say. And here is Freddy dealing with this cloud. Cloud is, just going to go after a few minutes. There is a time he was free. Cloud is there, cloud disappears, and Freddy is here. Which means there is no bondage, no attachment, no identification. Freddy just creates a desire, just a small desire that this cloud is so beautiful, it should not change the shape. He's creating a bondage already. Just a desire, just a preference, just an expectation. He's creating a bondage. which means now the cloud disappears, he will be disturbed. Some bondage is created. He starts believing that part of that cloud is my cloud because it is right above my garden. So he creates another bondage now. It is a deeper bondage. It will give him more level of sorrow because when the cloud disappears, it is not just cloud is gone, but I lost my cloud. So this is another level of bondage. It is possible that if even another level, he starts saying he is important because this cloud is so amazing. He gives himself self-respect based on the cloud. And in some level, defines himself based on the cloud. That's what we mean by identity. It has become personal. Cloud is still there, but someone just criticizes the cloud, it will bother him now. Because he's defining himself. So whether you call these all three attachments, or whether you call one of these attachment English word is sort of a bit vague, but we use the word bondage, and Baba uses the word bondage. You are creating bondages, and the word attachment can be used for all three with the meaning bondage. Bondage is a better word. If you want to be more specific, just use the word bondage.
Okay, thank you for this. It's very helpful. A question from Norwich. How was the first identity created? Like, obviously, it was a long before in the past, because if we manage to observe that process, we could reduce that identity and then maybe all the others.
Yes. It is like we just need to see how you create new identities in this life. Even in spite of spiritual knowledge and all, see if you are creating new identities. And if you are in some place, can be an object. You buy a new hat, new something different, and people start praising it or appreciating it. And if you get intoxication by this, you are already, creating an identity based on it. Identity doesn't come with a label. This is identity, this is false identity, this is ego. It doesn't come with it, but comes with intoxication. Some relation, like a mother and a child, and people say, oh, child is so amazing, is so good in school, so good in marks, everybody says, and you feel flattered by this. You are creating an identity. For one person, it can be child. For another person, it can be dog. People say, the dog is so nice, and you are flattered. Same thing, you are creating an identity. So we said before, some cultures, a very big identity based on the religion, for example. What has happened in the past, there was praise for the religion, for you being religious in some form. That there was a bhakti culture that very strong in the past, and people identified with religion. Just as now people identify with science, and people may identify with science gadgets, but there was an intoxication taken, support taken based on these things. And that is like a nourishment. Those identities get bigger. So very first identity, in the copper age, I can't, if that was the question, mechanism is the same, intoxication, of gross level, lockic intoxication. For us, our starting position is alokkic intoxication. These are invisible princes, and they are lucky, we are saying, for alokkic reason, not because of the Cinderella script. In the Cinderella, there may be a crown and there can be, some gold there. But for the invisible actor, that is a stunt. There is no intoxication based on this. But some confusion is required to take intoxication from the drama. And this drama is so convincing. So at some point, cross the line. And Sarah, want to add anything? This.
Yeah, I was just thinking how I was double underlining what that point. It has to be alokkic intoxication. It's actually incredibly simple, but incredibly strategic. Otherwise, even, some simple act like cleaning or making something work, or it can be very small, but that if it creates that happiness, it appears so innocent, but if you're at that level, then it's already a sign you've lost something at a true level, and it just takes a bit of deprivation at the drama Cinderella level for there to be upset. So I think it's perhaps this helps us just to track where the thoughts are going, because we tend to think about what we've taken support or happiness from. So in a gentle sort of way, not getting heavy, but just to notice the thoughts, and it just gives an indication what smriti, what identification we are in, and having that as a signal to take the full stop and the clean break to shine light again on this clean start. So yeah, thank you. There are lots of questions actually suddenly come, just seeing which to come to first. How to develop a true and spiritual foundation so that the idea, the intellectual idea being a foundation, doesn't cancel out the truth, the true identity.
Sure. The deeper change is at this level, and there's different things that we hear in the Murli. It is all aimed to bring about this change from the false identification to true identification. When we say body consciousness, that broad term is used. That term, that term applies to this consciousness. When we are into any of this false identity, we are into the Cinderella world. The anthill has become our world. Then it is body consciousness. We have the option to step back, and Baba wants us to be in that all the time. That's why you hear this message, constant. And otherwise, there will be intoxication. You will get intoxication from the story. ego, false identities will take intoxication. So if someone has that kind of a aim, then some of these things worth underlining.
If humans are in a human body at the moment, sorry, souls are in a human body, isn't that still attachment or bondage for the soul?
As was said here, there is a cloud, just because I'm dealing with a cloud, it is not a bondage. I can even go and sit on the cloud. Still, it is not a bondage. Bondage is created only when I come into desires, a whole range of desires. Only when I start entering into possessiveness, and when I start creating identification, then I create bondages. I could be sitting on the cloud, but internally you are temporarily passing through this, and things can change and you will come back. If you are carrying something, at most you are a trustee, guest, trustee. Guest is in a house, but he doesn't identify with anything. So also the soul is a guest in this body, is a trustee. Then there is no bondage.
Thank you. Coming back to the intoxication part, one comment. So the cause of identification is the experience of emptiness because of not being connected to the soul's treasures. That was a nice point. If there's intoxication in the drama, then a Vinash force is targeting this identity. It's like the opposite. It like has to create the balance. Is that the right understanding?
Yes, yes.
Question: to go to golden age, I think this is from Portuguese group. Yeah. To want to go to golden age is a desire for Brahmins. Is a desire and not an attachment?
Yeah. What happens here? Our starting position is to come in this consciousness. This is our starting position. Baba wants us to come in the soul consciousness, whatever it means. Until then, we are in the ego consciousness, and that is a very extreme bondage. So to remove the false identities, that is the aim. And even when you are here, soul conscious, you will have the preference, you will act from there. But the difference in the desire, we sometimes use the word, desires that come from desperation and desires that come from wish. They both are desires. Desperation is a desire and wish is a desire. In desperation, there is insecurity behind, and there is ego behind. When you are soul conscious, you might like to give something, even that is a desire. You want to sing, just express, that is a desire. So right now we are talking here, we are meeting, there's a desire. But question is it coming from desperation? Is it coming from the false identity? Or is it coming from the true identity? And this acting from that space, there is no sorrow. And it is not a sin. it doesn't create bondage. And moving from here to here, whatever that involves, that frees you from bondage. Now, we don't want to create desires that create more bondages. I hope I'm clear. Our aim is to become free from bondage. So desire to be free from bondage is a good, that is a useful step. Golden age, the reason Baba gives us that destination, so that helps us make effort and become free from bondage.
I think it's clear, and make that point that we're not saying desire is wrong, but is it the ego's desire, or is it the desire of the soul, the true self? So it's maybe a good time for taking a break, if that works, and if so, what would be the focus for discussion that you'd like to suggest?
Try and see that image we used of the anthill and the sky, and see how much time we spend outside of the anthill, and if there is time created in the anthill. And other area also to reflect the subtle forms of identification.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll just pop that in the chat to refer to, and we'll create this time around 10-15 minutes and enjoy. And you can move if you need to, move rooms or press help, and we'll see you back soon. Thank you. Hello, welcome. Sorry to interrupt any conversations. There was some beautiful sharing from the heart and very practical experiences and good questions. So do share in the chat if you would like, maybe over the next few moments, or creating that silence and stillness before we move on for 1 minute. Thank you. Thank you. So keeping that space in parallel, that drama is going on the Zoom down below, and the drama, the big Zoom, the small Zoom and the bigger Zoom. So we're going to invite Belinda, who is free to speak again. It'd be lovely to hear your reflections and what's come up in the discussion, if you'd like to share.
Om Shanti, thank you, Sarah. Yes, lovely discussion again, and just feeling after yesterday and today the importance of this subject of identification. It really is the root, and it's so helpful that we can be checking and reflecting on what those identifications are. But as was said earlier, that the real effort is just to come out of that anthill, and the more authentic our experience is of the subtle of Baba's world, that experience of the heart is the greatest authority, which helps us then to dismantle the so-called authority of the egos. And I was thinking about something as simple as preference. That preference in itself can create a bondage. And I think it was Jagdish Bhai who said that that was the first step towards body consciousness, is something as apparently harmless as preference. But I was just looking at what that leads to. And one big area is expectation. And one thing is the expectations that we have of others and their expectations of us. But I was just noticing that something like you create a plan to do something. Let's say you're planning a trip, for example, And you plan the trip with a lot of enthusiasm and, with interest. But the great checking is then to just ask the self, well, if this didn't happen, if all these plans had to be cancelled, maybe just a moment before you depart on your trip, is that okay? And then we can see how these expectations that ego has, how the drama should be, and the ego always has the preference that it's going to give some pleasure, some nourishment to one or other ego. And so just to check with anything, even if you're just planning your day and things don't work out, just to check, was there a preference of how things should be, how people should be, and what the expectations are that come out of that. Because disappointment is a pain in itself. And that's something that came up in our discussion in the rooms, that pain is the signal, even of these very subtle identifications. Pain is such an unnatural state for the true self. And so we should be very sensitive to how it comes in. Sometimes, as we said yesterday, it's just a sense of being unsettled or just, not feeling content. But we can check immediately that we've actually moved away from that true self. And so I think that the more that the experience of that alokik and divya world of truth, the more that is natural, then it's like the sheet with the black spot. You will see, you will feel in that moment that something, you've moved out of that position of truth, and something feels uncomfortable. So we can check in very practical ways during the day. What are the preferences? What are the expectations of a drama that is completely unpredictable? And so when the soul is fully awake, it can flow through the drama, unattached, without desires, because the fulfillment is not coming from the anthill. Thank you.
Thank you, Belinda. Very beautiful and helpful. And sometimes it's one word, preference, and you can keep it in the mind. And this aspect of sensitivity to this signal, but also the sensitivity to the alokik. Thank you. And thanks to all the comments and the questions. I'm going to hand to Prashant, who, just to mention, we do have a few questions here if we get time. And
Sure.
I've just seen your request. You can get the whiteboard now. Okay.
Let us create 1 more minute of silence. And even during this break, let us check if the alokik dimension was immersed We started today with the awareness. The whole positioning is so radical. We are guests here. Who is guest? The invisible player is the guest. And the invisible player is the invisible prince. He's from the world of King of Kings. And his world is divya and alaukik. And that means a lot. Nothing inauspicious. But we also know everyone is like this. And just to be aware of this, we said there is benevolence in this. And it is necessary benevolence. At the moment, there are answers at that level. There are no answers at the level of the anthill. Thank you. The question, about golden age, desire for golden age. The example we gave, there is a cloud. You create desire in the cloud, you create a bondage in the cloud. So you create, wherever you create desires, you create bondage. Baba doesn't want us to create desires in this iron-aged world. That is where Ravana is, Ravana's field of action. So at this level, we say the soul needs nothing from you, and he owns nothing here, and he identifies with nothing. And to transfer to the godly worlds, we are happy to create bondages in the godly worlds. For example, that is my home, the supreme home. It is a bondage, but it is eternally your home. You identify with soul, and you are happy to see yourselves with the relation with God. It is an eternal bond. You belong there. And the desire, mind, that is fine, because that takes you free, takes you out of the other bondages, Ravana's bondages. And even golden age, when you are actually in the golden age, you will reach there without bondages. So right now it helps you to come out of the iron age bondages. That is good. So you become free from Ravana, and then you are in the golden age. You don't create bondages there. That's why there is no sorrow when you are in the golden age. Many things come, go, but there is no sorrow. Yeah, it is a interesting, important subject. So just coming back to it. Happy to attend other questions.
Yes, thank you. One question, having a human experience, is that not a way to have experience of emotions through the vehicle we are in? If we are only the observers, aren't we forcing ourselves to be detached from this experience?
Yeah, sure. There are a whole range of experiences and emotions. There is a spectrum. And at present, human beings are experiencing the lowest spectrum. And it is going even further down. It is like a Ravana's range of emotions and feelings, and some might think that is what is normal. What we are saying, the human experience has a divine side of it. So when we become free from these Ravan's reactions and the Ravan's emotions, they are replaced by divine emotions. As was said, we interact. There is no reason for ever to have sadness or anger, or that they are not necessary in any interaction. And that is possible when we are in the higher range of emotions. That is also human.
Nice reminder that there is a spectrum, but there is this higher range that we've maybe lost touch with. Is psychology and psychiatry not really helpful to souls, as it appears just to work from cognition? The person typing works in healthcare and doesn't see much change in patients with chronic disease. Any comments on that?
No, they are very helpful and very necessary also, because they address a need at a certain level, certain point. But if we are looking for enlightenment, if we are looking for higher consciousness, they are not aiming for that, but they are aiming at a different level, something that is abnormal, even another level of problems. They are able to deal with it.
Yeah, it serves a different purpose in that way, maybe. Thank you. Could you explain why inspiration is seen as a negative thing?
I think you are referring to some Mugli things. Reference. What happens in some bhakti? They say they are inspired by God. And Maya can use this language. And anything goes then. I'm inspired by God, and there's a full authority now to follow Maya's program. So that's why Baba says Baba doesn't operate like that. First check. Even if you feel you're inspired, go through the system of checking.
Okay, helpful. Our true identity, or our true nature rather, so it's love, peace, happiness, bliss, wisdom. How do we maintain that in the physical world? I was reflecting on the understanding of being an actor. So the person has their world, and then they are coming on the stage, and because of clarity, there is that detachment and freedom. But it would be nice to hear.
Yeah, very good.
Further.
As we become free from the false identities, then even though you are in this world, you will feel you are not affected by things that happen here. Just like in a drama. In the drama, King Kong comes and dragon comes. You are amused by it because you are seeing it the right way. You are entertained by this. But you are having happiness based upon your real world and your real family. And in this case, in our situation, the real world is a divine reality. Consciously, subconsciously, you are connected to that. And you are connected to your true nature of the angelic soul. And that's why the feelings you are experiencing are angelic, the list that you mentioned, they are natural qualities of the soul. There is no pollution of the false identities.
Yeah, thank you. Always great to go over these things. So thanks for the question. Question here, there's just a couple more. When we've noticed or seen the false identity, how do we remove them? In a way, you've answered it. And this topic about intoxication, perhaps we remove it from intoxication of the alokik. But anything that you want to add?
The light, the reason false identities are there because of darkness. Just like if there is some darkness somewhere in the house, the cockroaches come, and what else comes? Insects. Whenever there is darkness, robbers also come out where there is darkness. And we create light, they all disappear very quickly. Same happens at another level when you create darkness of knowledge, which is darkness of ignorance. Then these cockroaches come, and robbers also come. They like that environment. You create light of knowledge, environment of knowledge, see it in knowledge. And when you're seeing it in the light of knowledge, you see how absurd, how strange, this temporary story. And we are using these analogies, anthill. We are using the letter I to these temporary things in the story. And that reduces the power of false identities.
Yeah, lovely. And there was one nice discussion in the rooms how we are given a lot of titles, and of course they're for the soul, but it keeps us busy with many aspects of knowledge, the details and the nuances and the new connections. And sometimes being busy, like techniques such as writing and putting our mind into that space. So very nice. First, maybe one final question, maybe a simple one. If there is no ego, does that mean there's no vice as well?
Yes, so we see false identification is the seed of all vices. There were different identities bring different vices. And you remove the false identities, you become free from all vices. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So there may be, if there are any other questions, you feel free to, you can always share them on an email, and also we can share about the next retreat, and also maybe you get the answer yourselves in this opportunity to go into the depths. Prashant, do you want to share anything final, as I see we've come to time?
Yeah, are we listening to some transmission? It will be nice to hear some thoughts from Baba. And yes, very nice connecting, meeting, and meet again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. We can do this for as long as it lasts, and we will be connected, if not on Zoom, on the subtle, in the angelic space. So yeah, and a big thanks to the translation, who are managing, hopefully even when Sarah gets excited and speeds up a bit too much. I'm going to share just a slide about the next retreat. Sometimes it is spoken about the beggar, but it's a huge topic, Prince and the Beggar, very interesting. It's not been touched the last couple of years in a focused way. So looking forward to this. Bit earlier timing if you're in Americas, but we can always connect you with the recording. So we'll put the details in the chat, the link, and we'll send an email. You can just check your spam if you don't get our emails. So thank you. And we'll now create some time for drill with Bapdada. Thanks once again to everyone, Belinda, Brother Prashant, Om Shanti.